Alright guys, welcome back to this episode in the garage. Today we're going to be dealing with some of the body work on the door that we started on the last video. So y'all hang tight, we're fixing to go do some work. So basically what I want to show you is how I deal with a panel that just has a lot going on, okay? A lot of high spots, a lot of low spots, everywhere from one end of the panel and in places virtually top to bottom. So this is by far the worst panel so far on the car. So what we've got on this panel is we have high spots, we have low spots, we have dents, we have rolled edges, we have rust. And so where I want to start really is I want to find the actual surface of the panel. So what is the true surface of the panel? And that might sound a little bit weird, and I get it, but there's so many different surfaces going on because of all the dents. And so what I want to do is I want to find what is my actual surface, what is the panel supposed to be versus what it is. And the way that I do that is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I'm going to shine a light through here. And so in this part of the panel, you can, well, let's see. Let me turn you around a little bit and make sure you can see what in the world's going on here, is what I'm trying to tell you, if you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Alright, so we're going to shine a light through here, and I'm just going to assume that you can see this. But if you'll notice, there's not a lot of light coming through. Not enough for us to sit and hammer and dolly and beat on. But in the same section, or the same height of this panel, when I start sliding to your right, I don't know, it's too early, but you'll start seeing light up here. All right, now over here on this side, you don't see any light, right? But you see it coming through here. All right, so we know this general area here is low because we have determined that since this is very flat over here, then when we slide here and we hold it really flat over here and we see light here, you have to come to the conclusion that that is low, right? So we'll keep sliding. All right. So you can still see light here. Boy, this is going to be a tough one, guys. That's a large low spot. How far up does it go? All right, it goes. All right, so we're flat here. We start getting low here. All right, we're low all the way down. To here. All right. So, boy, we got a lot of work. All right. So I'm going to show you the way that I sort of deal with this. What I want to do I have a black marker? I do not have a black marker. So to keep my head from being in 10 different places at one time, I'm gonna start marking stuff. So anytime you, just a side note, guys, anytime you use a magic marker to mark on your panel, your whatever your notes are, that magic marker has to come off. It will bleed through anything that you put on it, whether it's sealer, primer, anything. So we're low all the way down to this region here. We're low. So I'm gonna put a big low right here. Now I have a high spot. Don't know if you can see it, but there is a ridge right here. So basically this ridge, to when you move your hand initially around the panel, you will think that since it turns out that is such a low spot, this seems to be a high spot, but it's actually not. This high spot is actually the surface of your, the original surface of your panel. See, there's no high spot. There's no light shining through right here where that high spot is. All right, so basically that tells you what happened is somebody leaned really hard. This is what I call a compression dent. And what makes it a little bit aggravating is there's no ridge to hammer and dolly out. You know what I mean? It's not like your typical dent where you have a definite outline of a dent and you can hammer and dolly and sort of get that out. There is nothing right here. Where this panel starts going low, there is no sign that it is low where I've marked it. I just know that it's low because of my straight edge. So this dent's gonna be difficult to deal with, but what we'll end up doing is we'll end up working our way backwards from this ridge up. So this ridge is, like I said, the original height surface of the metal, and this right here is in. So that's where we're going to start with that one. Now up here is an actual dent right there. So we're going to mark this as low and we're going to circle it. We know that's a dent. All right. Now we've got a lot going on down here. All right, so if I feel this, now I can't use a straight edge over here because this has curve to it. So the straight edge is not gonna do me a lot of good on this arc. It will do me good on this arc, but not on this arc. Now I know just from my eyeball that all of this is low. This whole edge has rolled down, and it is not from rust. There is zero rust in there, none at all. So either let's see, this is the front of the door. If I had to guess, this edge here is pointing towards the front of the vehicle. So your hinge will be here. If I had to guess, I would say they opened this door before, okay, let me back up a little bit. I don't want to confuse you. This door, I know for a fact, has been repainted. I know that for a fact because if you look at the other video, the previous video before this one, you will notice a bunch of white dust coming off that. That was all bodywork. So I know that this door has had bodywork in it, and it was to fix this stuff. Now I know they done some hammering and dollying down here. I can see evidence of them trying to straighten out some of what was going on down here, and they actually did a decent job, even though there is still some high spots we're gonna have to take care of. I believe they tried to open this door before they adjusted it, and it put this edge of the door from here to here in a bind, and it rolled that edge. Now this edge over here, There's, you know, still no rust right there. So I have to deal with that in a minute. Right now we're just identifying highs and lows. All right, so all right, we have a high spot right here. So I'm gonna put an H there. The actual low comes all the way over here. All low. It starts right here going low. Alright, we'll get over here. This panel really looks good so far. Alright, we'll scoot over. Alright. We're high right here. We're low right here. Alright. So that is going to get us started in the general direction, and we'll make a game plan as to how we're going to contend with all this that's going on. All right, so we have determined that this area here needs to come up. So we don't have access to use a hammer and a dolly, which in this situation, hammer and a dolly would not be the best tool because, like I stated before, there's no real hard line to fool with. You don't want to just slap around in here and make a bunch of high spots where there's no high spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hydraulic ram. So we have that, you know, it's a kit that uses a hydraulic cylinder to force hydraulic pressure into this, which means this will come up. So we're going to get that set up in there, and we're going to push this area probably higher than it needs to be, and then we're going to go around here and we're going to massage this metal and see if we can get it to loosen up some of its tension here, and we'll just see what it does. All right, so I've got my hydraulic ram in place, and let's take a look and see what we got. All right, so you can see the clearance there. So let me do a little bit of lifting, and let's see where we get. All right. Look here. All right, so what I want to do, that's as high as my ram will go. I'm gonna have to readjust it because I actually need it to be a little bit high. Right now it's exactly where it needs to be for a level surface, but when I release the pressure, it's going to go back to where it was. But while it's here, notice the difference in sound in the metal over here to over here. That's this area right here is where my ram is. So the metal's a little more supported. So I'm going to take this opportunity to go ahead and tap around this ridge that I can see, and so see if I can release some of that tension right there. All right, let's see where we're at. And this is more for your benefit than it is mine, because the light will be for you. But for our first initial go at it, that is not so bad. All right, but let's see where the metal returns to when we release the pressure. All right, it does not feel like it moved. All right. All right. So the pressure is off of it. Let's see what we got. There's our initial, our low spot from that dent earlier in the video that I showed you. It was up above what we were dealing with. I've already got it marked here as low, so we'll contend with that in a minute. But I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, fellers, for the first go, it don't get a whole lot better than that. That's what I mean when I say relaxing the metal. When I see this ridge here, that immediately tells me that there's tension that's pent up right here in this ridge, even though this ridge was not a high spot. It wasn't a high spot at all. It was actually, this ridge was actually even with this metal over here. So that tells you the ridge stayed put, or this surface where my finger is stayed put while that got mashed in. And by this being a ridge, that let me know where the tension for this compression dent was. For whatever reason, this section of the metal did not move along with that section of the metal. And if I had to guess, there is a brace that runs the length of this door, and it's right here. And it doesn't come into hard contact with the panel, but it does have like contact cement that's in between this brace and the outer sheet metal. So if I had to guess, whatever run into this or leaned up against it, or it could have even been a basketball, which basketball really makes sense. It bounced off of that brace inside and flexed just enough to put its tension in this ridge. So by bringing this up with that hydraulic ram, we were able to tap this ridge and release that pressure into the rest of the panel. Hopefully that makes sense. And it just so happened that I got lucky. It's something, a lot of times it doesn't work out that well. And but that's really all a dent is just pent up pressure. That's really all it is. You know, if it's a good enough dent, you know, it'll actually stretch the metal, and you'll have to heat it to shrink that metal, to give that metal somewhere to go as you get this dent out. But this was just a slight slap, and it just shoved its tension into a ridge. And so as soon as we relaxed that ridge, then we were able to get that low spot out. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so now what we're going to contend with is this area along the lip. Again, I'll shine a light through here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so we've got to get that out of of there, and that is one god-awful noise. All right, so let's see what kind of luck we have here. Let me get a dolly. Now, I had a question the other day. It's been, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. What is a dolly? A dolly. This is a dolly, and it's just one of several different types of dollies. And if you can imagine, anyone who's done any framework, house framework or something like that, you know, you can definitely tell the difference between when you hit a nail that's going into solid supported wood versus a nail that's going into something flimsy. So when you hit a nail that's going into a board that doesn't have any support, that deflection of the wood takes the power of your hammer away, if that makes any sense. But when you nail into heavily supported wood and it's good and solid, then all of that momentum and all of that force from the head of your hammer gets driven straight into the head of the nail, and which moves the nail into the wood, right? That's sort of how that works. Metal is kind of the same way. If I sit and slap on this, yes, it will move, but it will move in sort of an uncontrolled fashion. So I want to control how much that moves. So what I want to do is I want to support that metal, and I want to hit against that dolly, against a supported. It's sort of like holding, you've seen somebody hold a sledgehammer behind something while somebody else hits there. It's so that support is on the other side. So you get more of your energy from your hammer directed into the metal rather than into something that deflects and absorbs all the energy from the hammer and keeps it from doing its work. So we're going to start where we know it's low. We're going to start about right here. Hold your ears. Now, see how if you remember a couple videos ago, we were doing the same thing, we were doing something else with the metal, had to be pretty gentle. There's no rust in here. So I can go ahead and slap this pretty good, and this dolly is going to help keep that metal from deflecting too far up, if that makes any sense. All right, let's see if we move anything. Get straight edge. Oh, yeah. We definitely moving it. All right, we got a little bit more to go. So we're going to slap a little bit right here. Now hear how solid that sounds now, that metal is up and in contact with the bottom of your dolly. It didn't sound that way to start with because the only contact in the dolly was along this red line right here, not out here on the edge, what I'm trying to move up. So now that my edge has moved up, it's now coming in contact with my dolly. That explains the difference in sound. Got a high spot right there. Alright, where's my light so you fellas can see me? Alright, we're getting pretty close. Starting to lose it down in that area. Alright, so we're going to bring that up. It's down here around this hinge. I can't do this. There we go. Now this one yet. Let's see what we got here. I'm pretty happy with that. Where do we lose it? Alright, we start losing it down here. Do we lose it because the edge is dipped down, or do we lose it because that's high? So now we got to find that out. No, it is not high. So that edge is actually rolled over a little bit. So let's go ahead and take care of that. That did not get it. Oh, there we go. Whew, I'm sweating like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I'll just tell you right now. Tell you what, I'm not 100% sure that that is not a high spot. Oh, okay. I feel what's going on, guys. I feel what's going on. Now that I pay a little closer attention, that's a dent. Going that way right there. And there is no way I can get to that. That's down in the pinch. So the only option that I have is I've got to bring this down a little bit, and then we will take care of that with our body filler. No way can I get to that dent. It's you know, behind that dent is that thick. So there's nothing I can fit down in there to take care of that. So what we'll do is we'll get this down. And that right there is going to be perfect. All right, so let's take our pin. Low. We know that's low. All right, I'm gonna do a little more feeling around and I'll bring you back. All right, now moving on to a different part of the panel. Over here was where our big dent was and our low spot, or our high spot rather, and then our low dent that we can't get to. Now we're gonna come over here to a place I have marked as high. And you see what I mean when I say high. Okay. So the high actually starts up around there and comes all the way down to about right there. All right, so you know, well, my best friend in the entire world for virtually most all my life told me the other day that my channel is a teaching channel, and I don't mean for it to be a teaching channel, because I'll be the first one to tell you I know just enough sometimes to get myself in trouble. So when you watch this, you know, proceed with caution, because I am no expert. I have a general understanding of how metal works, and I fake it until I make it the rest of the time. And that's basically how that works. But there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And I learned by trial and error, and y'all have seen on my channel, if you'll go back, many mistakes. And we'll be covering one of those mistakes here in a future video. Pretty bad mistake, and it's a stupid mistake, but it's one that I'm gonna have to go back and redo, and I hate that more than anything, but it's got to be done. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna lightly tap, and we're going to send that shock wave down this way. So what I want to do, I want this thing to vibrate. And I'm going to focus my attention on what is actually the high spot after I relax this metal. Everything off here. This way. Now, you'll notice I changed when I got down to where my tension is. My tension is right here. Relax this metal. And I'll start changing. Let's see if it's done anything. All right, still a little bit high. I can teeter-totter a little bit, and my high spot really starts getting good right there. So this is my high spot. I'm gonna change hammers over to a round head hammer. It's got a little bit more of a convex, so I don't focus any of that energy onto the corners of my hammer, if that makes any sense. I got the hiccups. But we're gonna start relaxing. I've got a lot of tension right here. So think of it sort of like breaking the surface of the water. If you slap the water really hard with your whole hand, there's a lot of tension. It will sting your hand if you slap the water hard enough. But if you break the surface of that water up and then slap it, then you'll notice a big change in how it feels on your hand. Same thing with metal. I want to break the tension. I'm not going to hit this hard enough to put a bunch of dents in it. I'm just going to relax it. Now I'm going to manipulate and do what I want to do. Alright, let's see where we're at. I don't feel like it's moved a whole lot. Oh, it's definitely getting closer. Now this is how you would deal with a high spot that is not actually like something hard to hit it and made a point. It's actually a surface of metal that is all lifted. So I want to relax that metal out into the panel and send that metal out. I don't know that makes sense. It makes sense in my brain, but it may not make sense to you. But what I want to do is I want to take that high spot right there, and I want to send that out. So I'm going to work my way out and send that metal. Not all scientific. I'm going to send that metal on the molecular level out this way. And I believe that is going to do it. You know, you sort of have to, a lot of times you have to choose between the lesser two evils. High is bad and low is bad. But high is worse than low. High you can't do when it comes to doing your body work. You can't really do much with high. And if I remember, when we get into actually doing the body work as far as filler goes, then I'll try to explain that better. But I would rather in the short story, I would rather it be low than high. So now we're going to come over to your right, and we're going to start dealing with this. This is where the previous body man focused his dolly and hammer. Now, the paint wasn't shiny, so I can't really tell actually how good of a job he done. I know he did a good job in applying the body work. I talked about that in the previous video. But we're going to bring this down. We know that this is high. So there's so many dents and dings here that I'm just going to work in this area in general and just sort of bring this down a little bit. We also know that this edge is rolled over. All right, so we don't want to go crazy bringing this down because we've got to turn back around and bring this edge up. And I'm not 100% sure what effect rolling this metal up is going to have on that. And speaking of that, I might want to go ahead and do that and just see what effect it has by what effect it has on this area right here. So what we'll do is, where's the best place for me to do this? All right, I'm just gonna go here. I know, just from my eyeball, I know that this is low. Guys, we're gonna have to end it here. I'm out of video space. So again, thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think I'm doing wrong, what you think I'm doing right. If you learned something, if you can show me something better. Until the next video, we'll see you later.